What's the difference between consultative selling and buyer first selling? Okay, so imagine that you're going to the doctor and they ask you a ton of questions and then they write you a script and a prescription and then they send you on your way. Do you feel heard? Are you bought into the solution that they just prescribed to you? And how likely are you to really follow their advice? Now imagine that you go to the doctor and they ask you some questions and you give your answers. Then they ask you some more questions based on your answers. And the doctor thinks and answers and says, well, let's do this. And let me understand a little bit more about that. Then the doctor asks you, so what do you think of this? How doable is this for you? What's your daily routine like? You know your body better than anyone else. How do you think that this is going to work for you? Together, you and your doctor come up with a plan. How likely are you to do what the doctor suggested? Because you came up with it, IKEA effect, you're probably going to be more likely to do it. This is the difference that I see between consultative selling and collaborative selling, or buyer first selling. I get it though, that for some, the intent of consultative selling, the way it was designed initially, was to always put the customer first. I get that. But the issue I see is in the execution of it, is that what's happening is that when sellers try to be consultative, it comes out like they have to tell and educate and prescribe because they're the reported experts. It all becomes all about them. Buyer first selling is different because it's going to require a mindset shift from telling to asking, from knowing to learning, and from looking at selling as something we do to others, dig into pain points, create urgency, overcome objections, just something we do with them, uncover challenges, discover compelling reasons, and understand the roadblocks. You see, the difference between consultative selling and collaborative selling, in my opinion, is that consultative selling, you as the seller or the consultant, the teacher, the prescriber of solutions. In collaborative selling and buyer first selling, you don't have to know it all, because let's just face it, you don't know it all. None of us do. And as soon as you think you do, you're going to be irrelevant. The other difference that I see in consultative selling is that once you reach the point that the buyer becomes a customer, most of us are done selling. It then moves on to an account or a project manager, a customer success team. And rather than this linear process, I see collaborative selling model as more layered and cyclical. Like an onion, you peel back the layers of an onion. I often describe the process kind of like driving to a destination in the fog, with your buyer kind of acting as your GPS and telling you which way to turn and when. If you take a wrong turn, your buyers can give you alternate routes to reroute you, but only if you're paying attention and actively listening. You see, the active selling never actually stops. We kind of know this intuitively, that this is how it should be, but it's not how it is. Because when we're collaborating with our buyers, the environment is always changing. I think actually it was John. John said this morning, oh gosh, what was it? He said that the buyer's needs are always going to be constantly changing. John Mateague said this. The buyer's needs are going to always be constantly changing and moving, and that we have to be able to document and understand what those changes and trends are so that we can evolve and change with them. I'm summarizing. That's what collaborative selling is all about. It's not about prescribing solutions because you think you know best. It's about moving in time with your buyer. This might sound a little daunting and complicated, but the reality is it's pretty simple. It's only 4 steps, actually, not to be confused with easy. The reality is that all you have to do is become a very good active listener and ask great questions. We've said that. The foundation for all of this, the 4 steps: shut up, stop talking, be fully present and listen, repeat what you heard, and then ask a question to better understand the detail of what you just heard. Those are the simple, easy, simple steps, not easy for everybody. Not when our brains reward us to talk about ourselves. There's a professor at University College London, Dr. Thomas, and I'm going to apologize now because I think I'm butchering the last name, Dr. Thomas Chamorro Premuzic. He wrote this book. I love the title of this book. It's called Why Do So Many Incompetent Men Become Leaders? Don't you just love that title? And he writes about the crucial role that mindfulness actually has on our ability to actively listen. And it's so difficult, though, because society rewards us for being the loudest, the most self-promotional. He said in his recent article, I think on Forbes, that if you want to be a better listener, that the decades of research suggest that you have to work on 4 areas: focus, empathy, self-control, and inclusion. Look, the bottom line is that how, or even if we do something, is going to depend on our mindset towards the task. These are the internal factors that I just described that are the only ones that are actually in our control. So if we're going to change our results and evolve with our buyer in the times, we have to first change our mindset towards our buyers and customers and how we interact with them so that we can then change those interactions. Selling is about connecting. It's about communicating. It's about helping other people. So the better person you are, the better seller you're going to be. That's how I see the differences, I should say, between consultative selling and buyer first or collaborative selling.